Series 1 of the Scale Up Your Sales and Marketing podcast is powered by Enterprise Nation, providing expert support for small businesses in the UK. Welcome back to the Scale Up Your Sales and Marketing podcast. Today's episode is episode 8, and it's all about marketing, specifically what makes a great marketing campaign. So Vic, what does make a great marketing campaign?
Well, I've got 10 tips for you, because I think there's a lot that can make a great marketing campaign. It isn't just one thing. There isn't a silver bullet, and a lot of it is trial and error and working out what's working, what isn't, and being able to tweak and navigate that really well. I've got 20 years of marketing experience, and I've come from big brand and starting my own businesses and working with other small businesses and medium businesses to help them to do really great marketing. So I've also worked with startups, scale-ups, and products, services. So it's been very varied. So when I come to you with these 10 top tips, these are really kind of wide open to help every kind of listener. Okay, so number one is to start with some real clear goals. And I'm not going to waffle down the SMART objectives and all of that stuff, but I just want you to think about, what do you want to achieve from a particular marketing campaign? Is it a new product launch? Is it to drive revenue? Is it to create awareness? Like what is going on? What needs to be achieved when we're thinking about setting some clear goals at the very beginning? Number 2 is all about planning well. And then the execution actually becomes quite easy. The execution is usually the fun part, and the planning is the boring bit, really. It's a little bit like decorating a house. Nobody really wants to do all the wallpaper stripping and all the, the primer and everything. You want to put the colour on, right? You want to get to like the exciting bit where you can see the difference that you're making. And so when you think about marketing, the bit where you're putting the paint on the walls and the colour starts to show what's happening is the actual execution of the marketing. And that's the bit people tend to just jump to instead of planning. So we use things like Monday.com as a team. There's loads of different software out there, even if you use an Excel, something that's free, to be able to plan as like a Gantt chart exactly what needs to happen and when. Because there generally tends to be a lot of pre-work that comes into a marketing campaign. It doesn't just happen. Like we said earlier in episode 6 with the AIDA model, when we thought about the example of the accountant, and there was like videos in there and there was Trustpilot reviews, when we think about things like this, all of this stuff is like in the pre-work that gets done before the actual marketing campaign starts to go out and you started to do that networking.
Can I ask a question? You might be going on to this. So is there an ideal timeline? So let's say, for example, from day one of execution, which is the first post that goes out or the first email, how far backwards should you be working to make it land?
That's a really good question. And I'll tell you why. So 20 years ago when I worked at Thorntons, 18, 19 years ago, when I worked at Thorntons, it would take us 6 weeks. Somebody would put a chocolate model on my desk and say, this is the Santa model. This is in July. This is the Santa model. And this needs to start being out there in September. Okay. So I've got 2 months. And so it would take 2 months to arrange photography, to put these, these range of models and products and plaques and everything, because you have the plaques that you ice the name on. We'd put them all into a suitcase, travel up to Leeds or to London to the photographer, go and do the shoot, and then you get the photos back a week later, and then you send them off to the people that were putting it together or the graphic designers, and then that would come back, the catalogues would come back 2 weeks later, and then you go back with different amends. So really it could take 6 to 8 weeks before. But I think now we're in such an age where everything is just done so much quicker with AI, with, being able to send an email out to customers and get an extra 10 reviews within a day on your Google or your Trustpilot or whatever it is. Things are happening so much quicker. And so now, Thorntons would be in a position where they can have a photo booth on site, get a photo taken with a good camera that's in-house. It's straight on the website. So within 10 minutes, something can be launched. And it's not waiting for a catalogue to drop on a mat 8 weeks after being, the the chocolate Santa arrives on my desk, and 8 weeks later the catalogue arrives on the customer's doormat. It's such a quicker process now.
I've dabbled a bit recently with events, so I've been able to run a couple of what I call food and drink discovery events, so essentially mini trade shows showcasing a collection of independent producers. And I have given myself, and I've just done this, 8 to 12 weeks.
That's good. It's very realistic.
Because I am a one-person business with, limited external support from other small business owners, but also because it involves people buying a ticket and actually parting. So I'm working off an 8 to 12 week, and anything less than that makes me feel slightly nervous.
Yeah, I would as well. I think that's a really realistic time scale for an event. And obviously then it depends on the type of event as well.
Yeah.
I think that the event you're running, it sounds like it's really realistic. And so that time frame of planning is just so crucial, because within your time, you've got kind of the pre-marketing planning and the marketing to do it all together in that time frame. And yeah, it's about separating the two so that there is that moment of creating the clarity that knows exactly what you're going to do, and almost sense checking it before anything is then done, because it's easier to implement something when you know exactly why it's happening.
To jump straight in.
Yeah, rather than just jumping straight in and doing things. Okay, so number 3 is about investing in really good photography, graphics, video, illustration, voice. We're investing ourselves in getting really good voice with our podcast. It's about when that's not your zone of genius, being able to allocate funds to get somebody to help you to do it really well, so that with your marketing campaign, it lands better, it works better, it's crisper, it's not faffing. And things like photography, even like headshots for LinkedIn, things like this are so simple. And there could be, we just had a photo shoot last week with a student from Keele University, and actually that was win-win. He's now got photos for his portfolio, and we've then got some team photos for our website. And so it doesn't even have to cost a lot. There can be a trade-off. There can be people who are wanting to start out on Fiverr or something like this, where they need your custom to help them build their business.
And it's once you have it, you can use it over and over again, can't you, to promote your next event or your next product or whatever it is. So it's actually a one-off investment that you can reap the reward for over and over again.
Yeah, and things like, when we did our Touchpoints marketing branding, we had brand guidelines done, so that now when we make things in Canva, they are to those brand guidelines, and as I know you do. And it's one of those things that once it's been done well in the very beginning, it's easier to continue that look and feel moving forward at a cheaper price. So within this top tip number 3, I've got an A and a B here as well. So 3A is include people who look like the target audience in the photography. So if you've got your website and it's aimed at a certain target audience, and we touched on this in episodes 3 and 4, yours was around who you're selling to, and mine was about how to narrow down your target audience. So when you think about that person, that perfect target audience, and you know what they look like, and maybe you've created an avatar and you've been ripping out the magazines and everything, creating this picture of somebody that you know who you're talking to, having people like them. So it might be paying models or getting people that you know to pretend that they are customers in the photos for your website, means that when the customer actually lands on it, they see someone that looks like them, and automatically it feels like, I feel like I'm in the right place. This person knows me, understands me, and is already working with people like me. So it helps remove that barrier, and it makes it a lot easier. 3B is along the same vein. My tip is, if it's a product shot, so let's say, for example, you are selling green pens, because we were talking about green pens in the last one. If you're selling green pens, don't just have a picture of the green pen on the website and the social media, have the hand in it, obviously holding it, writing, because it needs to look realistic. And it also then gives it a frame of how big that product is, because everybody knows how big a hand is. They can then see they've got a point of reference. This tip is actually from when I worked for a client. They were listed on Not on the High Street, and when Not on the High Street gave us the guidelines on photography, this was one of the things that they started to say. Like, it wasn't in at the beginning, but then they said, hey, every picture that goes on our website needs to include a human element, a hand or an arm or a person, or, you know, if it's a necklace, it's a bit closer up. It's not a picture of a necklace in a
cabinet or
a cabinet or in the
box.
I'm doing that snappy thing with my hand. I'm like, what's the word? It's not in there. It's actually on the person, because what they want to see and feel when they're buying it is, what is that going to look like when it's on? How far does that necklace come down on the wearer, etc. So this was something that once they started to put that in, when you navigated around the Not on the High Street website, actually what you could see was like just real life. It gave it 3D-ness. It made such an impact. It made a big difference.
It proves that what you're selling is the experience and how it makes the person who's buying it feel. You know, they want to see. You know, I've heard this example a lot with people who are cleaners, for example. I'm not selling you a clean for your house. What I'm selling you is that experience you get when you come home from work on a Friday afternoon and your house is clean, smelling fresh, and you can just crack on with the weekends.
Yeah, and it's about conveying that in a way that we've always got to put the customer experience and the customer, you know, what they're feeling as they're going through that buying process. That's got to be at the forefront of everything that we do. So number 4 is about choosing the right touch points. And of course, this is something that we touched on in episode 6, where you could work out what are the best touch points for your business. But I bring this back into what makes a great marketing campaign again, because it is one of those things that you could have a great marketing campaign. You could have wicked photography, really good copy. You know, you've got pictures of your target audience in there. But if you're not choosing the right touch points, it's going to fail. It's not going to work. You're not going to create your return on ad spend, or you're not going to create awareness of what you're doing, because nobody's going to know about it. So this is really, really critical. Number 5 is about, and we're really good at doing this. We've been doing this today. Consider some behind the scenes showcases or photos or videos to show the real you. And I think that's the kind of people we are, isn't it? We want to be able to we want to take our listeners on a journey with us when we're doing the podcast, and we want to show what's happening, because this is our first time doing a podcast. This is an experience for us, and we want to share that excitement with our listeners. So what can you do in your business to be showing behind the scenes showcase to give your perfect customer a little bit of an insight into how hard you do work, what you do, the lengths you go to do your craft, or to do the thing that you're really great at. So yeah, something to think about. Number 6 is about copywriting. Now, I'm such a big believer in the power of copywriting. Why say something in 1,000 words when only 10 will do? So it's really important to be concise, and I know you've spoken about this in previous episodes, Lisa, but about talking about the benefits to the customer and not waffling. I know you're a fan of getting to the point.
Too long didn't read.
Too long didn't read. So it is one of those things that's about being concise, writing things in a way that's going to make them feel like this is the right decision for me. So if you know your target customer really well, you might know that they just need short, sharp sentences on brochures, emails, websites, etc. Or conversely, it might be that they need the detail. They need to look at if somebody's buying a holiday, they want to read all the information about all the activities that are going on during that week. Or, if you're buying a brand new house, you might think, I want to read all the information about this style of that particular house and all the benefits of it. Like, when we buy something that we're investing in, sometimes we need more detail, but it's also about writing that in a concise way.
And in a way that's easy to digest as well. So I want to be able to read that in my own time, on my own terms, as opposed to having to sit with someone and they take me through it. So I think that's important as well. So presenting the information in a way that the customer can actually use that to inform their own decision.
And I think under copywriting also comes something you've touched on before, which was breadcrumbs. And it's almost like giving them the information, but then allowing them the access to go off and find that deeper level of information somewhere else as well.
So and have time to absorb it and just take it on board, really.
Love it. So number 7 is about creating something that your audience wants to share. Now, when I wrote this, I don't know why, and it's a really, really old advert. So please bear with me if you're under 25 or 30. There used to be a Budweiser advert where everybody would ring each other and go, "What's up?" And I don't, it's that infectious laugh, isn't it? That it was one of those things that was just, it was viral, wasn't it, at the time? And I don't even know when it was, like 10, 15 years. It's got to be 15 to 20 years ago now. If you are under 25 to 30, then probably just Google "What's up" with about 80 U's in the middle. Now, that was something that when we think about things that your audience wants to share, that was something like you'd pick the phone up and you'd just say to your friends, "What's up?" Like, because you did. And it was just one of those silly things. But every time it had the full association with Budweiser. Everybody knew that the "What's up" was all about Budweiser. So what could you create that your audience might want to share? Now, that doesn't have to be a word. It could be like something that's a downloadable that you've been able to create for them for free that actually they might share. And this is the thing. Sometimes people can get hung up on, well, it's all right, I don't mind sharing it as long as I get their email address in the reciprocating relationship here. I want to be able to have their email address so I can then remarket to them. If they then go and share it with somebody else, that's not fair. Well, I would say fair game, because they're doing some marketing for you, and all you need to do is make sure you've got all your details on that PDF. You need to make sure it's branded up, looks beautiful, really helpful. If somebody's sharing it for you, brilliant.
Yeah, I remember.
Share away.
I remember this gets me thinking about in-store magazines, which I love, by the way. I'm a bit old school, and I
like
do
the
love
supermarkets.
I love the tactiles, and I remember. So I live in a house of 4, so it's very unlikely that my teenagers are going to, have a flick through my Asda magazine. But let's say they did. I've picked up that one magazine, taken it into my house. It's then actually been read and looked at by a total of 4 people. And it's the same thing, isn't it? It's about eyes on the prize. Yes, it might just be one person that's taken the action, but if they then share, then that's just expanding your reach. So I think you're absolutely right. Fair game.
And there's loads of things that you could do to help your audience with creating things that they want to share. Even in a podcast scenario, if you're listening to this today and thinking, there's a particular episode that's really resonated with me, and it's something that I know one of my friends in business would really appreciate, please share away.
Yeah, get sharing.
We'd love you to do that. Number 8 is all about messages landing at the same time via different channels. And I am a real big fan of this. So this goes back to number 2, where we were saying about plan well. If you plan well, you can make sure that your messages are landing on the same day, time. It doesn't have to be the same time. It could be the same day, via the different channels. And the impact that this can have when I'm a customer and I receive an email from a company, and then I'm on Instagram and I'll see it on there, and I'm on LinkedIn and I'll see it on there, and I'm getting that same message 3 times, and it's solidifying it for me. So I'll give you a company that does this really well, and it's a non-alcoholic brand called Lucky Saint. Now, I'm a massive fan. They've in terms of marketing, I think they just nail it. They do such a great job. But when they opened their pub in Marylebone in London, I already knew, like I've not even been to their pub, but I already know why the sign writer was chosen, how the sign writer does it, photos of the sign writer putting the great big Lucky Saints sign up above the door. Like, I love that level of detail. And I think it doesn't make me buy more, but it makes me feel more in tune with the brand, because I'd be buying that anyway for home use. But it's about me feeling more aligned with that company. Like, they've involved me in every step of opening their pub, to the point of the interiors. Like, the interior designer, there was an interview with her, and there was all the interiors up on the wall and why she chose these particular hues of colour and these textiles, and like just being invited in. And I suppose this goes back to
behind the
number
scenes,
5, about behind the scenes as well. But all of those messages I was seeing come to me on email, on Instagram, on LinkedIn at the same time, and it just creates such a huge impact. And it might be that I'm more attuned to seeing it because I notice that it's coming via different channels. And you might then start to think, okay, I've now started to notice this pattern, because it's like now, you become aware of things more the more you see things.
But it comes back to your point in the Touch Points episode, which was around 7 to 8 times. So needing to see that information 7 to 8 times before actually taking any action. So it's absolutely aligned to that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's building it up. And repetition is so powerful in marketing. So number 9, we're nearly there. Number 9 is about include an element of A/B testing where possible. Now, A/B testing is taking a control, a bit like in science, if you ever remember chemistry, where you had to do lots of different experiments. Having a control and then making a small tweak. A is your control and B is the version that's tweaked. So let's say if it's in email marketing, if you've created an email that has pictures and photos and graphics within there, buttons and copy, you might have all the buttons might be red as your A, and then all the buttons might be green as your B, okay? And so you can then send that and have like A, B, so you can split it and send it, and then you can see what the difference in the click-through rate is. So let's say previously, your A is your control. So let's say that B wins. You can then, B becomes the A, the control for next time, and then you might go, okay, this time I'm going to change the font, or I'm going to change the wording. Instead of it saying buy now, it's going to be click here. All these small tweaks can have incremental gains on your return on investment. And we're going to come on to return on investment in episode 10. So that's your A/B testing. And the final one is about reviewing. It's really important after you've finished a marketing campaign to review well afterwards in order to gather those key learnings. And as you're taking all those learnings, you're taking everything with you into the next marketing campaign to say, okay, what we learnt when we did this didn't work. When we did this did work. Because there's no point in trying to reinvent the wheel, do more campaigns down the line without taking those key learnings from that existing campaign and moving them forward. So hopefully these have resonated with you today. Hopefully there's been a couple of gems in there that have helped you think about your next marketing campaign. So join us next time when I'm going to be asking Lisa, why is no one returning my calls and emails? See you soon. Don't forget to follow us over at Scale Up Podcast on Instagram for behind the scenes footage and access to additional resources to help you master your own sales and marketing.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.